And I think a lot of times we do that at Christmas, right? It's like, well, my mom always made these cookies. She always made the pies this way. She had, a gazillion turkey dinners, and this is the way I have to do it. It's always these expectations, and we have to stick to the status quo. And I think we have to totally get rid of that and be like, okay, what is the most important thing here? Well, Merry Christmas to everybody. We got Christmas coming up, and this is a special episode because I have my very good friend, Shannon VanNatter, on with me. Shannon, welcome to the Carla Rand Show.
Thanks, Carla. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice. We talk like often on the phone. And last Christmas, this is a very special podcast because last Christmas I had you on too. So then I thought it'd be really fun to have you on again this Christmas. So I'm really glad that we could make this work. And so we want to talk about lots of things about Christmas, of course, like the birth of Jesus, what's on our minds, how we celebrate Christmas, what's going on with us right now, a lot of different things. So we're just going to have a fun little chat. It's the kind of talk that you could, grab a cup of coffee or a mug of hot chocolate, sit by the fire and just listen in, or drive in your vehicle, wherever you're at. But Shannon, are you ready for Christmas?
No. Now everyone can identify, I'm guessing. I don't know. How many people are actually ready for Christmas?
Well, people always keep asking me that. They're like, Carla, you ready for Christmas? And my answer is always just, I'm as ready as I'll ever be. Because I don't get too worked up about Christmas. And it's on purpose because, our family, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, our family is very busy. Like, Jason's usually overcommitted. I'm usually overcommitted with something. The kids are usually busy doing all kinds of things. So I feel like I just want to spend time like resting and relaxing and just doing things that we enjoy and spending time together. So really, because that's mainly what our Christmas is about, there's really not a whole lot of things to get ready. I mean, decorating the house, I just say, okay, kids, go downstairs, get the boxes and decorate. I don't decorate the house. I used to, but they do just as good a job. I help a little bit, like, oh, let's move this or whatever. So that's kind of how it goes. And then when it comes to meals, I cook a few nice dinners maybe, but nothing too fancy. I don't want to spend my whole time in the kitchen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Good plan.
I think it's different for people, like they're having a bunch of family over and they've got to make up beds and they have to have a whole bunch of extra groceries in the house. And, and maybe there'll be times where we do that, right? Especially when our kids move away and then they're coming back to visit and stuff. Maybe it'll be different. But right now, I just feel like in order to keep my mindset good, in order to keep us all close, it's just best to like not have a stressful Christmas. So we kind of purposely plan it that way.
Yeah, that's a really great way to do it, I think. I like that idea for sure. And I think, yeah, like you say, it's different seasons of life and for different people too, depending on what you've got going on. But I've definitely had those seasons where I'm like, no, like nothing is happening for Christmas this year. We're just going to make it to Christmas and then enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
Especially like last year, we were in a trailer with a tarp on half our roof. And, it was just like, okay, we're just going to survive and get to Christmas and through Christmas. And that's what it's going to be. So it's whatever you make it. It doesn't have to be set. And I like that. I'm not a big fan of expectations and having to always meet up with those expectations. I think that's really stressful. So yeah, it's good to kind of take a look at things and say, hey, what do I actually need to do for Christmas? What do I really want to do for Christmas? And what are the things that I don't need to do? And what kind of ability do I have this year? How much time do I actually have this year?
Yeah, like what's the mental capacity? What's the time capacity? And what do the kids, like for us too, it's like, wait, what do the kids want to do? They just want to go to the mountains. Maybe they want to go skiing. They want to just spend time together. So, I mean, that's what we'll do. So when Christmas comes, we'll just kind of take it. But I know some people are probably listening and they'll be like, oh, it must be nice. I've got all this family coming and I've got to make 50, Christmas dinners and it's going to be crazy and I got to buy all these expensive gifts. And I feel like, okay, let's just back up. Do you actually have to do that? Or is that an expectation? Because I had certain expectations for myself too about Christmas. And so I had these expectations super high. I had to make this really amazing dinner. I had to bake all my own pies. Last Christmas, for the first time, with absolutely no shame, I bought pies and I didn't make a single pie and I felt amazing. And I'm going to do that again this year.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I think, yeah, exactly that. Like if you're starting to say to yourself, oh, I have to do all this. Well, you've got to stop and think, well, who told you had to do all that? And like,
right.
We all have decisions. We all say yes and no, and it doesn't matter what it is. Even if we feel like we're kind of forced into it, we're still saying yes, or we can still say no. It just, you never know. I mean, there's consequences sometimes attached to those no's and you've got to be prepared for them. But
yeah,
it is our call in the end. We make our decisions. So
yeah, exactly. So what are you most looking forward to about this Christmas? I know for me, it's just spending time with the family. Jason's been working a lot. So he actually has, I think, about 5 or 6 days off in a row, where he's, I think, not going anywhere. So we're just really gonna like hunker down and just spend time together. And so I'm really looking forward to that, not having to go anywhere, do anything, hoping to just really like not have to be on my phone, like kind of disconnect, even like let my business go for a little bit too, and just kind of let that happen. So that's what I'm looking forward to. What about you? What are you kind of most looking forward to?
Oh man, I haven't even really thought about that so much, which is crazy. I know we already talked about it, and I'm like, mentally, I'm kind of in a place where I haven't really prepared mentally for Christmas. I've just been trying to get ready for Christmas. So maybe other people can identify with that too. I'm just, looking at the list and trying to get things ticked off. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to having more laid back time with our family for sure. And Daryl's taking some time off, which is going to be great. And we're going to have some more laid back time together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that. I think I'm kind of looking forward to getting the commitment part of it done and over with, I guess, the things that I am committed to, and just getting that off the list or whatever. But I guess, and with that, like, am I even looking forward to that? I don't know that I am. I don't know if I can honestly say, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Like, no, I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm more looking forward to it being done.
Yeah.
So there's some raw honesty there. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I used to be more that way, where I had like a big checklist. Okay, for Christmas, I got to get this thing cleaned up. I got to have this organized. But now I'm just like, it is what it is. I don't even really care anymore. We just want to spend time together, because I guess I've spent so much of my time, and I mean, like, we'll move on right away. I know we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but I spent so much of my life being obsessive about my house, obsessive about expectations, about being a perfectionist, about everything. So everything had to be perfect. I had to be amazing. I had to be the model wife, the model mom, the model daughter, the model everything. And I had to just, do it all. And I just feel now, and like we've talked about this a lot, Shannon, like just let go of the expectations. And so I have very low expectations in regards to the house and stuff now, because I just about drove myself insane and everybody else around me with my obsessiveness about trying to have everything perfect. So now maybe you could say I swung too far the other way. I don't know, but I sure feel a lot better. I can sure manage my life better now.
Yeah, no, I think that's very freeing. I think you're right too. I think this year for me, it's a little different that we're hosting like my family's Christmas. So my parents are coming, my siblings are coming, my niece and nephew are coming. Right. So I think it's awesome. Really excited. We have a new house, so that'll be fun. We really want to enjoy it with them.
Yeah.
I think that's where probably I'm feeling more of the pressure. And then one thing I did forget, which is crazy, that I'm really looking forward to too, is my little family. We have a traditional cabin gathering. So me, Daryl, and my two boys, we spend Christmas Eve usually out at our little cabin and our gift opening and stuff there. So that is a really chill time. And we like do little appetizers and stuff and kind of pretty much eat on the floor, because there's not a lot of space in the cabin. So that's one of my favorite parts.
Nice. Sure. Yeah, I'd like to do that
too. Nice new tradition for us.
Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have traditions too. Christmas Eve, we celebrate everything Christmas Eve. So we enjoy that. But I was thinking too, like when it comes to mentally preparing for Christmas, it's like, okay, we have all these expectations about like the house and the family and this and that. But what about the whole reason we're celebrating? Is the whole reason just to get together with our family? I mean, that's wonderful. That's great. And maybe for some people, that's what it is. But what's ultimately, why do we celebrate Christmas, Shannon? Why do you celebrate Christmas?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I love that you got me on this podcast, because you totally, it's like kind of deer in the headlights kind of look on my face. I'm sure I'm like, oh man, I haven't even really thought about baby Jesus. That's what I told you yesterday. Yes. I really haven't. I've been thinking about giving. I've been thinking about joy and giving, because my boys have been really big into giving to their classmates this year, and been doing like little secret Santas and been filled with joy. And that's been fun. So I think that's been my train of thought this year, is just about wanting to give, preparing to give, and the joy in that, but actually like thinking about Jesus coming, how he's the gift, the very first gift of Christmas and the most important gift of Christmas, and how he's our rescuer. Man, I just really haven't taken a break and really thought about that. Yeah. Except for the last 24 hours.
And I was thinking about it because I was supposed to lead worship this last Sunday in our church. And so there's like the Advent reading, right? So you have the Advent reading and then you have like a package of songs. So I kind of had to think about how's this going to work and what scriptures do I read and like how do I tie it together? And then it suddenly occurred to me, I'm like, oh, this is just like COVID. Like, this is just like everybody wants COVID to be done, right? Like, whatever side of the fence you're on about the vaccine, whatever, we don't need to go there, but we all want it to be over, right? We just want to get on with our lives. We want to get rid of the masks. We want to get rid of the division. We just want to move on, move forward, and everybody be healthy and free and everything. We want to do that. And so there's this expectation and this longing, like, who's going to free us, right? Is it going to be the government? Is it going to be the healthcare system? Is it going to be these doctors? Is it going to be the conspiracy theorists? Is it going to be, our family, our friends? Like, who is going to free us? Who is going to let us go? Like, get us out of this. And I really feel like it would have been very much like the Israelites when they're waiting for Jesus, right? They're like, when is our Savior going to come? Because they were oppressed. They were very oppressed. And they're like, we need somebody to come and save us. And so they knew that the Savior was coming. They knew that they called him the Messiah, right? He's going to come and he's going to save us. But they didn't understand exactly what that meant. They thought that he was going to come. I think a lot of them, they thought he was going to come and like get rid of all the bad guys and like help them be strong and healthy and maybe fit, maybe physically fit, give them good food to eat, give them good homes. And he was going to rescue them and it was going to be amazing. But he actually had a totally different plan. He was actually going to rescue them from their sin, from the consequences of their sin. And he was going to build a relationship with them. And he was actually going to dwell in them through his Holy Spirit. So he had a whole different idea of being rescued. And I think sometimes, like when I think of COVID, I want to get, let's get out of this. I think, wait a sec, what can I learn through this? What is God trying to teach me? How is he going to rescue me in the midst of this? So I think that's where my head went. And I got really excited when I thought of that, Shannon.
Yes. Yeah. And that really excites me too, that whole way of thinking, because I think, yeah, just like you're saying, like the upside down way that he rescued the Israelites, that he became their king, and they were expecting something totally different from a savior, Messiah, and king, and yet he became their king, dwelt within them and among them, and developed his kingdom in that way. And his kingdom is continuing to grow and to reign on the earth in such a below the surface kind of way. So yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, to think of that now. How are we going to be free from COVID? How are we going to be rescued now? Yeah, might be totally different than what we're expecting. And the freedom that we can have with like still being in the confines of COVID. I think that you hit on that perfectly, because I think we can have that freedom without actually being free of COVID. And we can get to that freedom from the inside. And it's something that no matter where we are, no matter what our circumstances are, we can have access to that kind of freedom and that kind of rescue.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because what I'm worried about when I tell people stuff like this, right? I'm like, okay, God's going to come through. God is going to save us. God is going to do something powerful and fight the evil. It's like, okay, so they're thinking, okay, well, Carla, if you're saying that, then does that mean you're going to give up fighting? Like, you're just going to be like, oh, God's going to handle it. So, you go in your corner and you pray, Carla, but the rest of us are going to suffer. The rest of us maybe are losing our jobs, or we're losing loved ones to COVID, or whatever it is that the suffering is through this pandemic. It's like, oh, you've given up, Carla. No, I am still going to do everything I can to fight with what I think is right as God leads and guides me. I mean, God always raises up powerful leaders or certain people, and sometimes really obscure things that God does. Very backward. Like, why would he send his son Jesus to be the Prince of Peace, and the King of Kings as a little baby that's completely helpless? Like, why didn't he come in on the white horse with his big javelin and like rage on everybody? Instead, he comes as a baby, completely dependent. He was going to be killed, so his parents had to hide him. Like it seemed like a big gong show. Like, God, do you even know what you're doing here? Like, this is not the way I would want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the Bible talks about using the weak things of the world to shame the strong, and the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. And so it's just like, you really have to wonder how the rescue is going to happen, and don't just look for the expected, look for unexpected ways that he's going to do his rescuing, and he's already doing his rescuing. I mean, I just think about you, how you're advocating for people and just bringing help to people who need it. So you, I think, are part of the rescue mission already. You know, it's already in progress. I was talking to my dad this morning. We had breakfast together, and you know, he's part of the rescue mission. He's bringing guys, you know, into his home for coffees and whatever, encouraging them. They're, you know, he's part of that rescue mission. I think many of us are maybe part of that rescue mission, and it's happening in a small way, like a mustard seed kind of way, that's going to grow up into a really big tree.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Yeah, I see it too. I see the ripple effects. And I think it's like, okay, it would be easy maybe for God just to, like, it would be easy for him to just say, okay, we're going to stop this. We're going to get, you know, the leaders, let's say Justin Trudeau, and all, we're going to unseat them, because God can unseat whoever he wants, whenever he wants. We're going to raise up a new leader. It's going to replace him, and everything's going to go back to normal, or it's going to be way better, and everyone's going to be happy, and I'm going to end this pandemic right now. Boom, no more cases of COVID. Like, it's just going to be over. But I feel like, okay, that would be fine, but we're all just going to go back to the way things were then. Right? If he just intervenes right away, we're not really going to learn anything. If we have to suffer for a while, all of a sudden, I know for me, like, I am clinging to him, because I'm like, God, this is really awful. I don't know what you're doing. I'm super frustrated right now. I don't think this is a good idea, but I also will trust you, because I know that you know more than I do. Your ways are higher than my ways, and you see the big picture. I don't. I just see what's in front of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that point too, because I think I tell my Sunday school kids this. I say, if we don't have any problems, then we don't need Jesus.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where we were, a lot of us, before COVID hit. I don't know that we really felt like we had problems, and we didn't really have a need for Jesus or to depend on him.
Yes.
And now it's a different story.
Yeah, like I often say, like, the hardest thing that a lot of Christians struggle with is, I keep forgetting to pray, or I got to get into my Bible more. I got to spend more time with God. And it's like, you're obviously not suffering very much, because if you were, these wouldn't be as much of a problem. You'd have a lot of other problems, maybe it would be trust or whatever. So I feel like, I know for me, and I'm not trying to like point my finger at anybody, that's been my problem sometimes, like, I forgot to read my Bible, or I forgot to pray. That's not really happening too much for me anymore, Shannon. Like, it's like every day I'm like, God, help me, give me wisdom, help me to know what to do today. How do I respond to this situation? You know, what's the best course of action here? Who should I pray for? Who needs help? Like, it's very, like, I just feel so in need. And I think that anything that makes me need God more is actually a blessing. So I think this COVID thing is actually a blessing as much as it's awful.
Yeah. And it's pretty interesting how it's made us connect at a deeper level with people too. Like, I mean, the surface stuff, it's gone in a way, or it gets muddled through very much more quickly. And we get down to the heart of things more quickly.
Which I love, because I hate small talk. Like, I've always hated small talk. I'm like, what are you struggling with? What's going on? What do you believe? You know, like, let's not talk about the weather, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. And those connections are they're such a blessing. I mean, I just even think about funerals, as weird as it is to talk about in this conversation, if I can bring that up. But, you know, as people never want to go to funerals, but the depth of connection that can happen, you know, at that time, talking to people about that. I mean, I talked to 3 people on Sunday, I think, about who had lost loved ones, and just the connection you can have right at those times. It's powerful.
Yeah.
And those connections are good. So yeah, you know, that's another blessing, I guess, that can come out of this. And I know we're off the Christmas topic. So if you want to bring us back around here somehow, do your magic.
Do my magic. Well, I was thinking, okay, so I still think that God's eventually going to bring the people that need to be brought to justice. They are eventually going to be brought to justice. So I can rest in that. Vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Does that mean that I don't try to bring God's justice about as much as I can in this world, in this time? No, of course I do. If there's somebody doing something wrong, I'm going to turn them into the police. If there's somebody, I'm going to try to expose them. I'm going to try to bring the justice that I feel is the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, God's going to bring the justice. So right there's peace. Boom. I don't have to stress about it. God will bring justice. He will either use me, or he'll use somebody else, or he'll use a whole bunch of different people, a whole bunch of different scenarios. He's going to bring justice either here on earth, or it's going to happen when these people die. They're going to meet their maker, right? So in any case, he's going to bring justice one way or another. So I don't have to stress about that. And I really feel like the way that God works, like, you know, is he going to also bring, because people are like, oh, you're talking about all the spiritual stuff, Carla. What about the here and the now? What about me? Like, I lost my job. What about the way the government is pushing us, and how we see the corruption and all this kind of stuff? It's like, okay, God cares about that too, right? He doesn't only care about the spiritual, he does also care about our physical needs, right? And he will provide and he will help us in his own way. But I also feel like if God, like when Jesus came, what he did was so revolutionized, revolutionary is the right word, because he didn't just come and save the day. He came and he challenged the Pharisees, and he said, you're putting loads on people that they cannot even carry, and you're not doing a thing to help them, right? He's saying, woe to you, Pharisees. Like, you're doing these things, you're expecting these things, and you're not doing them yourself, or like the idea of like the outside of the cup is clean but the inside is filthy. A lot of people talk about Christians as being hypocrites. Jesus called them on it. He did a lot of things while he was there. So it wasn't just the corruption as a whole, like the government corruption there, but he was looking at the corruption of people's hearts, right? And I think that's where we have to start, is like, where is your heart? Look after your heart and make your heart right with Christ first before you start looking at all of the other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, and we're probably going down a side road here again, but I have to connect with that a little bit. So I was reading just one passage about the Pharisees. Now, this is towards the end of Jesus's life. So he comes down as a baby at Christmas, but towards the end of his life, we've got the Pharisees. They are so concerned about keeping their system that they have under the Roman rule that Jesus is a threat. He's posing a threat to that. And that's why they want to get rid of him, so they can keep this system. But they're in an oppressed system, yet they're so bent on keeping that, which is craziness. I don't know. That just really struck me. And then Caiaphas, he makes actually quite a prophetic statement there, like, you guys, it's not worth having this one man live for our whole system to die. This one man needs to die so that our nation can survive. And that was very prophetic, because Jesus died, so then not only to bring life to the nation of Israel, but to bring life to all of us. Mm-hmm. I just found that fascinating about, the religious elite. They were so afraid that their system would change, that they were willing to try and keep status quo under a very oppressive government.
Yeah, instead of looking and saying like, this could be amazing, this Jesus guy, look at how he's challenging us, maybe he's got something to offer. Instead it's like, nope, he's going against what we have always known. Right?
Yeah. And I'm not sure how we can tie that into Christmas. I know it definitely tie that into COVID in our situation. I guess I was thinking too, like, just the message to the shepherds from the angels, like, peace on earth, goodwill to men. And that's the thing too that Jesus brings, and we can remember that at Christmas especially, that he came to bring peace. And that peace is it goes beyond circumstances. Again, it goes beyond COVID. It goes deeper than that.
Yes. So I'm going to talk, okay, so when I think of when Jesus came, and this is the other thing too, we're talking about like the unexpected, okay, and going against the expectation. So these Pharisees, they had their, like, everything was the status quo. Let's just do this. And Jesus wants to transform it. Jesus, no, get out. We want to keep the status quo. And I think a lot of times we do that at Christmas, right? It's like, well, my mom always made these cookies. She always made the pies this way. She had, a gazillion turkey dinners, and this is the way I have to do it. It's always these expectations, and we have to stick to the status quo. And I think we have to totally get rid of that and be like, okay, what is the most important thing here, and what expectations can we keep because they make sense and they're helping our family, they're helping our life, they're helping us in whatever way, and what expectations we need to just get rid of, just pitch them, because they're only stressing us out, they're not really helping anything. And then I think of when Jesus came as a baby, and I think the whole Christmas story, what it points to is how much Jesus just blasted the expectations, just absolutely blasted the status quo in such a powerful way that it just leaves everybody with their mouth hanging open. Like, Jesus is going to be born from a virgin young woman? Like, that's just bizarre. Like, not only is that a miracle, but it just doesn't make sense. Like, she wasn't anything special. She wasn't some kind of a queen or a princess. She was just some girl that happened to believe in God, and I guess had a relationship with God in a way. That was it. There wasn't anything fantastic about her. And then he came, and then he was born in a barn. Yeah, and even just the fact that he was born in Bethlehem because his parents had to go to Bethlehem, but then they actually moved back to Nazareth, and he was born in a barn, and it's just the most. And then the shepherds were the first ones to come and see him, and like, who are shepherds? They're like the outcasts of society, essentially, right? So you have all of these things that just don't add up, and the expectations, and it's so bizarre, and yet it's so God. It's so like God to do that. He
Yeah.
always seems to do things differently than what we expect. He always goes against the expectations. And it's just, I mean, he does whatever he wants to do, but I just see that so much.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely does. And throughout his life, too, just constantly challenging the status quo. Almost all the time, he was challenging the status quo of that day and age, and especially the religious elite.
Oh, I
So
know.
you have to think, if you're part of that religious elite, hey, you got to be like, okay, what's he challenging me on, right? And
Right.
I guess I feel like, hey, I'm part of Christianity. I'm part of the faith community. What's he? And I think even just as you speak, I know he's challenging me too. I'm like, okay, I got to look over these expectations, and what am I doing just out of obligation, and what does God really want me to do? What's really, where's he going, and where does he want me to come with him? Where is he inviting me into?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do that. Thanks. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a bit of a break and actually talk to him about that. So thank you, Carla. Hopefully other people will do that too.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, maybe it's part of it might be just I'm a little lazy. I don't know, but I just feel like I think too, like I hit such a wall these last couple of years that I had to really reevaluate what I was doing and why I was doing it, and sort of get rid of all the noise and just kind of focus on the things that were the most important thing.
And I guess the one thing I was thinking now, the phrase that I've heard is, the ground is level at the foot of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And just basically what you're saying, but it doesn't matter if we've just come to Jesus yesterday and we're a drug addict. I mean, we're arm in arm with each other at the foot of the cross. It doesn't matter if you're a mask wearer, if you're vaccinated or not vaccinated. We're arm in arm with each other at the foot of the cross. And there's just no elevation one way or another.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's freeing. That is very freeing, just to even think that way. And it takes away that expectation away. Like, what do I have to prove? I can try all I want. I don't go up. When I mess up, I don't go down. We're just there together.
Yeah.
And whether we know it or not, we are one. And probably the more we receive that truth to our hearts, the more we'll act as one. And just like we've been learning, Carly, you and I have been learning together, is we're beloved children of God. And that's where we have to live. And that's the most important truth. So when we're living in that truth, I mean, you're a beloved daughter of God just as much as I am. Mm-hmm. Equally loved. And so are my vaccinated friends, and so are my unvaccinated friends. We're equally loved by God and cherished by God, and his favor is a shield around all of us. And I just think the more we start really thinking about that, I think we'll just be kinder to one another, and there just will be less division, because we'll see it as less division. There's not division between us.
Yeah, there really isn't. And I think that what's happening is it's like they're trying to create division. And I feel like our responsibility as Christians is to, I guess, do what Jesus did and say, no, there is no categories here. So if you are at the bottom, like maybe you are, I don't know, you're suicidal, you've got nothing, you're at the very bottom, like you said, God sees you the same as he sees the person who's maybe, some pastor of some mega church and they've done all the right things. I mean, what did Paul say? He said, I've got all these things, right? I've been the Pharisee. I followed all the rules. I did all the things. And he says, I consider all of those things that I did garbage that I might know Christ. That's it. It's all garbage. Like, God does not look at it and be like, oh, you went to Bible college, Carla. You went to Christian school. You went to Sunday school. You blah, 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 blah. Look at you. You're so amazing. And look at this person. They didn't grow up in the church. They're sinful. It's like, no, everybody is level in front of God. And so I think that's like, yeah, it's very profound. And I feel like it is what we need to remember, and certainly what I need to remember during these times. Nobody's better than anybody else. So it humbles the people that are up here and it brings up the people that are low so that we're all level.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's beautiful. And I mean, just think about how that just allows us to actually commune with one another, right? Because I think it's so hard to have that relationship when you're thinking about one person being higher or lower, or do I meet up with their expectations? I mean, that's what makes you unsure when you're in a relationship, right? Like, I don't know, am I okay to talk to this person? But yeah, when there is no higher or lower than anybody else, we're just good.
Yeah.
And we can communicate and we can commune together.
There's no hierarchy. There's just all of us, and there's God, who's way above us.
And I love just so often in the Bible, especially in Paul's writing, he talks about being in Christ. It's like we're wrapped up in who he is, in the person of him. Each one of us is wrapped up in that. So that's where we get our identity, is in that. So everything else that we do, whether it's good or bad, is just kind of like whatever, right? It doesn't really make, not that it doesn't make a difference, just it's not how we need to see ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, when you talk about being wrapped in God, I just suddenly saw, like, think of, like, these candies that are wrapped up individually instead of, but then I think also, okay, so you could think of it, we're all wrapped separately in Christ, but also we're all in the same bag. We're all in the same candy bag, right?
Yes.
Because God is, like, we see this through the Christmas story, how relational he is. He comes as a baby with this couple, right? And then he has brothers and sisters eventually. And there's all these relationships that he has with his disciples as he gets older. He has 12 disciples that he's training. And then there's these different other people that he touches, kind of touches base with or connects with throughout his journey. He's so relational. And I love that, because God is not this untouchable, spirit in the sky. He is there with us, and he's communing with us. And he's like, he loves that relationship. He loves it when we come to him. Right? He wants to get to know us. Well, he doesn't need to get to know us. He already knows us, but he wants us to get to know him. He wants us to share with him. He loves that. It's amazing.
Yeah. And that's probably the most profound thing, maybe, of all of it, is, the word Emmanuel, God with us. We're talking about Christmas. I mean, that was in the prophecies in Isaiah, right? Emmanuel, God with us. And that's why he came as a baby, is so that he could dwell with us. He can go through life with us. He can do life with us. He does COVID with us, right? And I think that's where we get the strength, is we can do anything if we know God is with us and for us. He's for us, not against us. And I think that the more we understand his presence with us and feel that presence with us, I think the more confidence and freedom we have to walk through these days and whatever days are coming around the corner for us.
Yeah, and I think of it kind of, okay, so like in COVID terms, a lot of people say that they're awake. So that means when they say they're awake, that means that they're seeing the corruption of the government, and they're seeing the side that is not so good, right? They're seeing the side, rather than, oh, look, we have this vaccine and the government's helping us and everything's going to be wonderful. They're seeing the other side. And so these people say that they're awake. And whatever your side is on this, whatever you believe, that's not the important thing here. I'm just trying to make a certain point. So I would say, when you're a believer, when you see God for who he is, and you actually know who he is, and you receive Jesus as your savior and you follow him, it's like you're awake. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Like, you see Jesus. And I think that is really a thing. Like God has to lift that veil so that you can see who Jesus is. And that's I guess that's so powerful. And it's so sad to me, because I want God to lift the veil for everybody. I want every single person to have that veil lifted and to be able to see Jesus for who he is, not for maybe who their dad was or their uncle or grandpa or somebody that maybe abused them, or like all this hurt and this pain from maybe male figures in their life. But to see God for who he is and how much he loves them exactly as they are. They don't have to change anything. He loves them right there. And for them to see it, right? That is my biggest prayer through this Christmas season and beyond. It's just that people would see God for who he is, and they would see Jesus for who he is, this relational God that loves you so much that he would die for your sin. And I feel like, man, like even in the Bible, it says, greater love has no man than this, that they would lay down their life for their friend. And that's what Jesus did, right?
Yeah. And more than that, it said, some people might die for their friends, somebody who's good, but Jesus died for us and we were still in our sin. We were still enemies to him, essentially. And that's when he did it. It's right. If you think like we were in the middle of our sinning, in the middle of doing the worst thing you can imagine that you doing in your life. And that's what we were doing. And he was saying, hey, I'll take the consequence for that. I'll take the judgment for that. And so that is profound. And I love what you're saying about the things. Like there's a blindness over us until God reveals himself to us. And I just love that because that's all over now that I've, been exposed to that concept. If you look through the New Testament, it's all over the words hidden, revealed, blind, see. Those are just themes all throughout scripture. And it's pretty exciting when you're the one and when God just says, I'm going to show you in my power, by my power, I'm going to show you a little bit more of who I am. I'm going to show you a little bit more of what I do. I was just reading through even the story of Lazarus and Mary and Martha. And so Lazarus had died and Jesus did not come right away. Could have healed him if he'd come right away. Did not come right away. Let Lazarus die. Let him be in the tomb, dead for 3 days. Then he comes, talks to Mary and Martha, and he asks them, do you believe? And Mary says to him, well, I believe in the resurrection. I believe that, someday he'll be raised. And Jesus is like, kind of challenging her. And it's like, I don't know, you can just kind of see the sparkle in Jesus' eyes. Like, yeah, I'm going to show you how much more there is. Like, yeah, you believe in the resurrection someday. No, I'm going to let me show you my power. I'm going to raise him right here and now.
Yes.
After 3 days of being in the grave. And I just think that's so much of what Jesus is about. It's just like, come to me. You believe this. Let me just blow your mind. You have no idea. And that's just when I come to him, it's like, whoa, I didn't see that before. And that's just the excitement of walking with him and being in his word. It's like, there's so much more there than I've even started to understand.
Yeah, like I can't remember somewhere in the New Testament, it says he can do immeasurably more than all we ask or think. And I think maybe in some versions just to say imagine. Anyways, but basically anything that you can imagine in your mind. So something that you would think that, okay, God should do this or whatever, he's going to do more. So I think even with COVID, like, okay, God, here's what I think you should do. You should, get rid of this leader, get rid of that leader, get these new leaders coming in, and then you should do this, and then you should do that, and this is how it's going to work, and this is going to be amazing. Whatever we think would be ideal, would be amazing, he is going to do more. Immeasurably more, not just a tiny bit more, like abundantly more than we could ask or think. So it's like, wow.
Yeah, and let's take that back to our families too, because you can think of the, the large scale issues, but I don't know, like families and our immediate circles of friends and stuff, there's so much conflict and like you said, division there. But I think a lot of us are just fearful even in that, right? Like we're having a hard time trusting God and expecting good things to happen with our relationships. And that too, he's going to do abundantly more than we can ask or imagine. Mm-hmm. And that's where my struggle's been, is like, I keep wanting to control things because I think for some reason I have to be the one to fix everything, or I don't know, somehow I feel like it's on me, but it's not. He's still in control, even in our small circles of friends and in our relationships. And he is also going to be doing abundantly more than I can ask or imagine in those situations as well.
Yeah. Like, with your marriage, with your children, with maybe your mom or your dad or friends or whoever. And I mean, right now with COVID, there's a lot of division and there's a lot of families that have been really kind of broken apart through this. And I think, God, would you enter into that? Would you help those? Because that's, in a lot of ways, that's the most painful, because our relationships with people that we're close to, that's very painful.
It is, because I think we can do life fine. We can handle a lot fine if we have a good support system. Mm-hmm. But when that support system is frayed and torn and hurting, I mean, then how do you deal with life? That's hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, what I want people to see is just the hope. The hope.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
You're right.
But I feel like we should wrap this up now. But I just feel like the hope that we have, no matter what's going on right now in this life, there is so much hope And there is so much love from God. And so I think if people are listening right now and maybe they don't know God, just to realize that he's probably, if you feel like he's not someone you want to go to, ask yourself, why not? What is it about God? And then ask yourself, is that who God actually is? Or is that your perception of God based on what you've heard, what you've seen, what your experiences have been? Because I think if you really know who God actually is, you're going to run to him with your arms wide open into your daddy's arms. And you're going to say, I need you so bad. Would you fill me up with your love?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great way to end it, Carla. I hope. I hope there's a lot of people running to their dad. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know. Well, thank you, Shannon. I always appreciate talking to you. And I think, yeah, I love to be able to talk to you about the things of the Lord, because that's where our hope is. And that's really what's helped keep me grounded. So I just want to thank you as a friend for helping to keep me grounded through this really tough time. Because you've been here with me for the last couple of years, like talking to me like, at least once a week, most of the time. And I mean,
yeah, it's been so fun. I love it.
You just keep pushing me back to Christ. Carla, this is, remember who your father is. And it's like, so it's been amazing. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you for tuning into the podcast today. I absolutely love that you joined us. I love being able to record these, and I love our guests. It's been so much fun. So thank you. Please like it, share it, comment, do all of the things that you feel like you want to do if you enjoyed this podcast. I really, really appreciate that. And this podcast has been brought to you by my company, Power Fitness Online. So everything that we do locally with our workouts, with our group nutrition coaching, and with all of the other fun events and stuff that we run, we put all of that online. So now you can access everything, even if you're not locally, don't live in our area. So my coaches and I and all my staff, the whole team, we are putting so much work into these workouts. We're filming 5 fresh workouts every single week so that you never have to do the same workout twice. We're also doing group nutrition and personal nutrition coaching so that you get exactly what you need. And you know what the best part is? It's the community. The absolute best part is just knowing that you have the support, that you have the encouragement, that you have everything you need to succeed. So go to powerfitnessonline.com.